A recruitment advertisement, published in the Israeli press, once carried a line most intelligence agencies would never put in writing. "We don't care what you did. We care about who you are." It was aimed specifically at attracting women into an organization that had spent decades being almost entirely male. It is also, in its own strange way, a fairly accurate summary of what this career actually demands of the people who take it. Not a clean past, necessarily, but a very specific kind of person underneath it. This is your life at every rank in Mossad, the successes, the failures, and the parts most retellings of this story choose to leave out. Level 1. For most of its existence, Mossad recruited entirely through back channels. A quiet word from someone already inside, a former military connection, a recommendation nobody could easily trace. That changed in 2014, when the agency, somewhat remarkably for an organization built on secrecy, launched an actual recruitment website with a version in 6 languages and an online application form. You are not applying for a job in the ordinary sense. You are applying to disappear, gradually and completely, into a role the state will never officially confirm you held. The agency's own numbers, when they do surface, are notable. Roughly 40% of Mossad's employees are women, and close to a quarter of high-ranking positions are held by women as well. Figures the recruitment campaign specifically highlighted, aimed at correcting decades of imbalance in an organization that has always needed people who do not fit the expected profile of who works here. Level 2. The vetting is not a formality. Candidates go through a range of psychological and aptitude testing measured against the agency's specific shifting needs at any given moment, not a fixed template, but a constantly recalibrated sense of exactly what kind of person the work currently requires. Most applicants do not make it past this stage. The organization is small by design, nowhere near the scale of larger foreign intelligence services, and every seat is contested by people who, on paper, often look nearly identical to you. You wait. The process moves at its own pace, unconcerned with your timeline. Eventually, you are told whether you will proceed to the training academy or whether this ends here, quietly, the same way almost everything about this organization ends, without explanation and without much further contact. Level 3. If you are selected, you are sent to the Midrasha, the agency's training academy, located near the coastal town of Herzliya, a name that means almost nothing to most people outside this world and carries enormous weight to almost everyone inside it. Training runs for roughly 2 to 3 years, depending on the specific track. You learn surveillance and its detection, how to identify when you are being followed, how to lose a tail without appearing to notice one existed in the first place. You learn how to avoid the specific traps foreign counterintelligence services set for exactly this purpose. Some of what you learn here, according to accounts from former officers who have written about the experience, involves training. Most civilians would find genuinely disturbing to discover exists as a formal curriculum at all. You are evaluated constantly. Even after completing training, there is no guarantee of full deployment. An apprenticeship period follows, working on smaller projects before anyone fully trusts you with the title you spent years training toward. Level 4. If you make it through, you become a Katsa, a case officer, the Hebrew term literally translating to something close to collections officer. There are, at any given time, reportedly only 30 to 40 Katsas operating globally, a strikingly small number compared to larger intelligence services, made possible by a support structure that lets each officer's reach extend far beyond what the raw headcount suggests. You are assigned to a region, the Israeli area covering the Middle East, North Africa, and Spain, one branch covering Germany, Austria, and Italy, another covering the United Kingdom, France, Scandinavia, and the Low Countries. You typically remain in your assigned region for the length of your posting, though a small number of officers, known informally as jumpers, move between regions as operational needs require. Each station, in most cases, operates with only 6 or 7 Katsas at a time, a small enough number that you know by necessity every other officer working alongside you. Level 5. Part of what makes such a small officer corps functional is a network almost nobody outside intelligence circles has heard of, the Sayanim. These are unpaid civilian volunteers, typically Jewish, living across the diaspora, recruited by Katsas to provide logistical support, a rental car arranged without the usual documentation, a spare apartment made briefly available, a local contact who can smooth over a detail that would otherwise require official channels. Reports from the late 1990s estimated several thousand Sayanim active in Britain alone and considerably more in the United States. They are not intelligence officers. Many hold no formal role at all beyond a single favor, done once, out of a sense of loyalty to a state most of them have never lived in. This network is a large part of how an agency this small manages to operate on what outside observers have consistently described as a remarkably limited operational budget. Level 6. Your day-to-day existence depends entirely on the cover you have been assigned. Official, through a diplomatic posting at an embassy or consulate, or unofficial, built around a business front, an academic position, journalism credentials, or some other civilian identity constructed specifically to grant access to a target environment. Unofficial cover carries considerably more risk. Diplomatic status means that if you are caught, the realistic worst case is expulsion, declared persona non grata, and sent home. Without that protection, the legal and physical exposure is genuinely severe, and every relationship you build inside your cover identity has to survive scrutiny from people who have no reason to trust you, and every reason, eventually, to wonder why you never quite add up. You live this identity for years, sometimes, before ever being recalled. The line between the cover and the actual person underneath it becomes, for some officers, difficult to locate with any real precision. Level 7. Not every operation succeeds, and this video is not interested in pretending otherwise. In July of 1973, following the killing of 11 Israeli athletes at the Munich Olympics the previous year, a Mossad team operating in Lillehammer, Norway, shot and killed a man they believed was Ali Hassan Salameh, a senior figure they held responsible for planning the Munich attack. The man was not Ali Hassan Salameh. He was Ahmed Bouchiki, a Moroccan waiter with no connection to the attack, no connection to any of the organizations involved, and no reasonable way to have anticipated what happened to him that night. Norwegian authorities arrested several operatives in the aftermath. The case remains one of the most thoroughly documented failures in the agency's operational history, a case of mistaken identity with a permanent, irreversible cost that no later success in this career ever fully offsets. You carry the knowledge of cases like this one throughout your career, whether or not you were personally involved. The organization does not forget them either, even when it does not discuss them. Level 8. Within the agency's Special Operations Division, known as Mossad, operates a unit that has become, in public imagination, almost synonymous with Mossad itself, Kidon, Hebrew for bayonet or spear. The unit is estimated at roughly 40 operatives, drawn specifically from Israel's most elite military formations, Sayeret Matkal, the country's premier Special Forces reconnaissance unit, and Shayatet 13, its naval commando equivalent. Selection is extraordinarily demanding even by this organization's standards. Extensive psychological evaluation, advanced weapons and explosives training, surveillance detection at an elevated level, and field exercises lasting months before anyone is formally accepted. Kidon operatives frequently hold dual nationality and maintain native-level fluency in multiple languages, the specific combination required to operate in foreign countries with a meaningfully reduced risk of exposure. Almost everything publicly known about this unit's activities comes from leaked reporting and former officer accounts rather than official confirmation, which the state has, consistently and for obvious reasons, never provided. Level 9. In January of 2010, an operation targeting a senior Hamas military commander in Dubai resulted in his death and in one of the most significant diplomatic controversies in the agency's modern history. The operatives involved had traveled using genuine foreign passports, British, Australian, Irish, French, belonging to real citizens whose identities had been used without their knowledge or consent. The countries involved responded with real anger, expelling diplomats and issuing formal protests over the misuse of their citizens' identities for an operation on foreign soil. You understand, watching this unfold from wherever you are stationed, exactly what this means for every officer currently operating under any kind of borrowed identity. The scrutiny does not fade quickly. Passport controls tighten. Cover identities that once felt secure suddenly require considerably more caution than they did the week before. Level 10. Whatever you accomplish across a career in this organization, successful, failed, somewhere in the genuinely complicated middle most careers actually occupy, almost none of it will ever be officially confirmed by the state or by you. There are no public ranks here in the way other militaries and agencies display them. No medals presented at a public ceremony. No file you can eventually show your children or your grandchildren to explain what the years actually contained. Former officers who have written books about their service did so in nearly every case against the organization's explicit wishes and at real personal and legal risk for having done it. You retire eventually into an ordinary life that looks from the outside indistinguishable from anyone else's. The people who knew you during your service scatter, bound by an obligation to silence that does not expire simply because your career has. You think back to the recruitment line that started all of this. We don't care what you did. We care about who you are. Nobody in the entire process ever mentioned that who you are would eventually become the only thing left that was entirely, permanently yours. Every Mossad career starts the same way. Screened, trained, and eventually absorbed into an institution that will never publicly acknowledge you existed within it. The record includes real successes the agency has never needed to fabricate, and real failures it has never fully been able to hide, including the death of an innocent man in Norway and a diplomatic scandal in Dubai that made headlines around the world. This video was built on documented reporting, not on the mythology this organization has, at various points, benefited from and suffered under in roughly equal measure. Somewhere, an application is being submitted through a website that did not exist a decade ago for a career that will never officially exist at all. Subscribe. Tell me which level hit hardest.